All right, welcome to Talking Comics. My name is Per. I'm here with my friend Paul. How you doing, Paul?
Oh, I'm doing great.
Sweet. Okay, so today we're going to be looking at some CGC graded comic books, and some of them are restored. What does it mean, Paul, would you say, when they say a comic is restored versus, I guess right here we got one that's a universal grade. What's the difference between universal and restored?
Right. So the universal grade, typically the blue color, that is reserved for comics that don't have major issues with it. It is what it is, right? There's no hidden, restoration. For example, like color touch, trimmed edges, things to make the comic book appear to be in a higher grade than it really is. That's what restoration is, and so. This is a comic, from 1943, and this is a universal grade, so that insinuates there's no restoration. And then yet it says cover to attach and a small amount of dry glue. Well, as it turns out, for Golden Age, you can have glue on your spine, and I forget to what level. It's either a small amount or to a I think maybe the drop off is maybe moderate. If it has a moderate amount, maybe that is kind of considered restoration. I'm not perfectly sure about that. But
okay, hold on one second. Can you zoom in on the picture a little bit so we can read what it says?
Yeah, or how about if I read it? It says cover to attach, tape on cover and interior cover, small amount of dried glue on spine of interior.
So cover to attached. That's not restored. That just means the cover's messed up. But
Correct.
now it says tape on the cover. So that's like, the tape is, I see, I'm right here. I see on the top left, I see some tape. They're not trying, no one was, that was done by little Bobby in the 1940s, probably. So, he wasn't trying to deceive anyone into buying it.
He was trying to fix a comic book that was breaking.
Yeah. He wasn't trying to deceive someone into spending thousands of extra dollars on his old comic book.
Yeah, he just didn't want his comic book, to bust down so he couldn't read it anymore.
Yeah, and then the glue on the inside, I don't know, hard to say when it's in the case. Okay, so that one, they consider that not restored. It has some tape. It has a little bit of funkiness. What else?
Yeah, so tape, if you have tape on a Silver Age or any comic, really, that's not restored. But the glue is different, which is kind of funny because tape is just plastic with glue. But that's the rules. That's how CGC does it. It's how the Overstreet price guide. It's how they do it.
Okay, so tape is not restoration. Glue sometimes is.
It is if it's silver and newer. If it's Golden Age, it gets the benefit of the doubt, I guess. I don't know how that works, but they let it slide.
Right. They don't give you, there's no explicit rule book or whatever that CGC explains to you how they're going to grade it, right?
No, but I have read in Overstreet where it said, glue, to hold the spine, or I'm sorry, to hold the cover to the spine is considered restoration unless it's Golden Age. And then, like I said, if it's just a minor amount.
Gotcha. Golden Age has a different rule. All right, what other comics we got?
Yeah, a different rule on that, absolutely. So, with this said, this is fine. This is within their rules.
Okay.
So now we're going to go to a different one where we kind of escape that rule book a little bit. So now we have a small amount of color touch on cover, moderate amount of tape on interior cover and interior, and then the bottom edge is trimmed. So that's just all around the board. That's just restored. They're trying to make the cover look better by repainting it and by cutting an edge that is kind of janky. So this is literally to try to make it look better. And CGC says, oh, it's a 1.0, blue label universal.
Right. And so even though it's a Golden Age, it should still be called restored because they're cutting parts off and painting parts.
Right. That in no way do you get forgiven for that if you're Golden Age or Silver Age. That doesn't matter. Once you start painting, that's a problem.
except for when CGC breaks its own rules and they can do whatever they want.
Yeah, unless they said not today.
You know, you wouldn't want to crack this open, send it back to them. They might send it back to you with a 1.0 restored.
Yeah, and I don't know. It's hard to say. So here, for example, here's Batman. This is #1. What a great comic book. It says tear seal to cover and then center fold reinforced. So it kind of sounds like they're adding kind of pieces a little bit to you know, if it's falling apart, there's a lot of rips. You know, they're kind of adding pieces to you know, make the paper strong again, basically.
Right. And so this isn't universal grade. This isn't restored. This is some other new thing that I've only heard of today called conserved.
Right. And it is newer. It is newer, although I think they've been doing it for a while too. Yeah, so this does not include a trimmed edge. This does not include paint. This is only trying to keep the book alive.
I mean, although it's an 8.5, it sounds like the book is like phenomenal.
Yeah, it must look beautiful, right?
Yeah, no, so conserved is like it's better and restored and maybe not quite as good as.
Yeah, I don't know how the price breaks. I believe that if it's restored and there's different levels of restoration, and the more restoration, the lower the value, which I think makes sense.
Okay, hold on. So that's a good question. When they give you the number, you know, maybe this comic, maybe just some hypothetical comic, like, do they change the number as there's more and more restoration? I mean, like, eventually, like, there's like places where they print a cover on their like Xerox machine, right, and slap it on the comic, right? You can't.
Right. Well, that's considered a NG, no grade.
Okay, so that's something different. But it's almost like, you know, what if half the comic is almost whatever, not really there, and they put it back into, you know, whatever, they faked it. They faked half the comic to make it look good. Did they change the number, or they just say, it's restored?
So I guess maybe the best way to explain it, there's different levels. There's like A, B, and C. Okay, so I think A is the most amount of restoration. B is the second level of that, and then C is the third level. And then there's even rankings within those. I think it's like you could have a C2, you could have a B1, you could have an A3, I believe.
Do they put that on the label?
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes they will, I believe, make note of that.
It sounds like if you're going to restore something, restore it absolutely as much as possible. You know, if you're going to get the restored label, go for it all the way.
Well, no, because if it has a minimal amount of restoration, then the value is like half of what a universal grade would be. And then if you have more restoration, now you're looking at less than half. And more and more that you get, the less and less that it is.
But people look at the label and they go and pay less for it based on.
They're supposed to, whether they do that or not.
I don't think they do. I get the idea. I don't think they do. I think if you're going to restore something, restore it as much as you buy. If you're going to get restored on your label, just go whole hog, restore everything. Trim all 3 sides, do it all.
I mean, only if you're going to get a 9.4, I guess.
I don't know. You trim a side, you know, you start at a 4, you trim one side, oh, now you're a 5. You trim another side, oh, now you're a 6. You trim the third side, oh, now you're a 7. And it just says your sides are trimmed. It's restored. I mean, I don't know. But.
Yeah, I don't think that boosts you up enough though, just to trim all those edges.
Does make it look nice.
What else? But yeah, I mean, it'll make the corner look tighter, right?
You'll have a nice sharp corner, sure.
So now here's another one, and so no longer is the conserved little band at the top purple. Now it's gray, so it's even more confusing. They're kind of getting getting rid of that designation in this one. And this is very modern, in 1992. And then it says conservation includes tear seals on cover. So once again, there's tears, and they're trying to, reinforce this comic book to survive.
Yeah.
Here's an example of what it ought to be if you have a restored comic book. And once again, this one has it. This has a color touch on the cover. Interestingly enough, it has a tear seal to cover too. But I think that at this point, the small amount of color touch trumps the conserved grade and goes to restored. And this is how that Superman #1 in the 1.0, if you ask me, this is how that comic book should be. It should be a purple restored label, and it should tell us about, the color touch and the trimmed edge.
Yeah. There's definitely something janky going on here, but I think the most janky thing is coming up, right?
Oh, so so here we go. So so this is just where if you have a restored comic book and you don't want it to get the restored label with the purple, well, you just buy the upgrade of the little dishonest Spider-Man in the top right-hand corner, and that will get rid of that label. That automatically gives you a blue label, and if you read it, it says top edge trimmed, and we got some wraps trimmed. So right there we have a restored comic book, but they don't make those labels with a cool little graphic.
Yeah, so they give us $20. We'll put a picture of Spider-Man on there,
right?
And we'll pretend it's not restored.
Yeah, it's right. Isn't that crazy?
I mean, what a
the one thing I'll say is the one thing I'll say that is consistently throughout the board is that whether it be CBCS, CGC, heck, PGX, whatever, any company, you have to read the label. You have to read the words. You can't just assume the color blue means safe. That doesn't work. You have to read, because from what I see, they're always very forthright on what's occurring within the comic book. They do a pretty good job of identifying it. They just don't always relay that information correctly based on the labels and colors and words that they use.
Yeah, well, I'd rather have a blue label restored comic than a purple label restored comic if I got the option.
Yeah. We all know that the purple label is the kiss of death when trying to sell one of these things. Yeah. Although it's not quite the kiss of death that it once was, I'll say that. I kind of wonder if there isn't some dishonest people out there who they buy this comic book at a reduced price because it's been restored, crack it open, and now maybe they can sell it to the general public, as a unrestored comic.
Yeah, here's the comic, here's a picture of it for eBay, buy it at your own risk. Yeah, it's beautiful looking. Yeah, it's been repainted. Can you tell us a little story about a Fantastic Four #3?
Oh, are you talking about the one that I used to have?
Yeah, let's hear that story.
Yeah, so that was back when we first sent in our first shipment ever to CGC. We did that, I think, in the year 2007.
Yeah, it was almost 15 years ago.
Yeah. You sent in X-Men 94. It came back blue label 8.5. Nothing, no tricks. Wasn't any restoration on a blue label, nothing like that. And I got back a Captain America #53, once again, just a standard universal grade 3.0. I sent in a 3, FF3, and then, that came back with an edge trimmed. I don't remember which edge. I think, I do too. It was the top edge that was trimmed. Yeah. And then afterwards, you could kind of notice that edge was trimmed or different looking than the other edges. You can see a certain kind of sharpness to it.
I don't even think I knew that you could get a restored. I didn't know you could get your graded comic book back and have it be called restored. I don't think I even heard of that till that happened.
Yeah, I mean, we were pretty new at that at the time, and the way we did it, if you remember, we when we joined the Collector Society, we bought a year's membership, and that cost, I believe, $99. And so the way it worked is they gave you 3 free submissions, and so those were the 3 comic books that we sent in back then, back in 07.
Right, you could join the little society for $100, and that was cheaper than just sending 3 comics in. So we did it that way.
Yeah. Let's see if we have any more to look at before we
okay.
Get out of here. Yeah. So this is the other thing I want to say is that a lot of the other companies, they don't even use color to denote whether it's restored or whatever. They've moved away from it. And I understand because, people see purple, they head for the hills, it terrifies them. Maybe if they see this nice blue one here, and then, they read it, there's some color touch. Well, at least it's blue, I don't know.
That sounds good to me. I like blue.
Yeah, I mean, it looks better. I think they should have never done it in the first place. They should have just denoted it just like in this on the right, or I'm sorry, left-hand corner. It just says restored and it says slight. There's that, telling you how much of it is slight amateur. And that's another thing. You got amateur and professional, But anyway, I just think it's pretty interesting how, these companies are tackling it. I think by and large, they're pretty lost, like CGC.
Can we see this cover?
I think what they're trying to do is they're just trying to make it so that it's less hated than it used to be.
Right. Can we see this cover? It says strangulation cover. It makes me.
I don't think you can, I'm afraid. I think that's about it.
Whenever they say that you got it, whenever they say something about the cover, it always means that you got a good one. Okay, well, that's fine.
Yeah. And that's right. That's and an interesting little side note, when you buy the Spider-Man, like if you send it into CGC, this exact comic book, if you decide you want to buy that Spider-Man, right? Well, in this one, I don't know what you buy. I don't know. You buy Thor. You buy anything, really. You could put a Thor on an X-Men, as weird as it may be. You can do it. So you can put one of those guys on there, and then it won't say strangulation anymore. So they give out all the notes about the comic book. For example, if it's first appearance, it won't say first appearance. It'll just have Spidey's little logo.
Yeah, that's weird. Okay, is that all the comics?
Yeah, I know. It is. It's totally weird.
Is that all the comics we got to look at today?
I think that's it, Pear.
All right. Well, hey, thanks a lot, Paul, and thank you, viewers, for watching. Have a good day.
And I'd like to say one last thing
Sure.
before we go. Please, if you watched it, please subscribe. Please give it a thumbs up, and we'll see you next time.
That's right. Please subscribe. We have 2 subscribers right now. One of those subscribers is me, and the other one is Paul. So if we ever get 3, we'll know that we're really heading somewhere. We're going to be rich.